praises, honor, and glory to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the elders, apostles that great millstone. Shaawaam, chasaad to all of us sincere brothers scattered abroad. Out here on the highways and byways, just don't go in the spirit. Isaiah 18:3. All ye inhabitants of the world, dwellers on the earth, see ye whom he lifted up an ensign on the mountains. And when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. For so the Lord say unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon herbs, and like a cloud of dew in the heat of the harvest. For afore the harvest, when the bud is perfect, and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks, and take away and cut down the branches. Now, Kal Halal, the camp leader, had brought this out about the herbs. He said that this was talking about, gathering the weed plants so you can smoke them. But it's not really talking about that. It says, all ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers of the earth, see ye which he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. For so the Lord say unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon herbs, and like a cloud of dew in the heat of the harvest. Basically, what it's really talking about is how, Yahawashi bahasham Yahawashi put the spirit on the nation of Israel, how he gave the nation of Israel the dew of the heaven. I'm gonna have to get that again. Yeah. Isaiah 18:3. All ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the earth, see ye whom he lifted up an ensign on the mountains. And when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. For so the Lord say unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon herbs, and like a cloud of dew in the heat of the harvest. Now that's not really talking about weed. We're still talking about how the Most High put his spirit on the nation of Israel. It says, all the inhabitants of the earth shall see the Lord's return. The ensign is talking about Yahawashi when he returns in the chariots. Precept to that. It's Matthew 24 and 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and glory. So basically what we read in Isaiah 18 and 3, all ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the earth, see ye when he lifted up an ensign. Ensign is talking about Yahawashi. The mountains represent all the other nations, all the tribes of the earth, when he blowed the trumpet. This is Matthew 24 and 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. It's not really talking about smoking weed. It's talking about when Yahawashi come back, that great harvest. For so the Lord say unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon earth, and like a cloud of dew and the heat of harvest. Because the Most High put the Spirit on the herbs to service man. How they service man, you get your nutrients, your vitamins, your nutrition from taking the herbs. You know? They're not meant to be smoked. That's the view in the world. After that, this is Genesis 27 and 27. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field, which the Lord hath blessed. Therefore God give thee the dew of the heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. So basically, when in Isaiah, when it says, the Lord say unto me, I will take my rest and consider in my dwelling place like a clear heat upon herbs, and a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. Basically, he's talking about how he's going to put his spirit on his people. You know, mainly talking about the children of Israel, but mainly the remnant, the 144,000 down to the 1/3, the elect. Say unto me, I will take my rest, or I will dwell in my temple. Now the Lord's temple is basically, his temple is in heaven. It tells you that in Psalms. But basically, the elect are his temple also, because it's the Spirit of the Most High dwelling in you. And I will regard, the Lord says, I will consider, what the word there for consider is regard. It means to pay close attention to. And I will pay regard, or I will pay close attention to them as the sun shining on the herbs, or the sun shining on the green plants. Because in order for plants to grow, they need sunlight, you know. And Yahawashi is the sun, and he also the light. Yahawashi is the sunlight. And the plants that it's talking about there, that which are growing, are the elect. For the harvest, when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, ye shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks, and take away and cut down the branches. Now this for the harvest, when the bud is perfect and the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks, and take away and cut down the branches. Now, if you look up the words, it's not really saying anything about marijuana or anything about smoking weed. It's more figuratively speaking of the harvest. The Most High is going to send his angels back to gather the elect, because harvest when the sprouting up is perfect, because it says when the bud is perfect, but the definition of bud is to sprout up. And the bitter grapes are ripening. Those bitter grapes represent elect. And they're bitter because the Most High said, take and eat that I give you. That's what he told unto Ezekiel. Ezekiel said, it was in my mouth, that's honey. And also the same thing happened to John the Revelator. When he's talking to the angel, he gave him the book, say, eat it up. And the angel told him, it shall make thy belly, shall be in thy mouth as honey, but it shall be very bitter in thy belly. This is Ezekiel 2 and 9. And when I looked, behold, an hand was set unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without, and there was written therein lamentation, mourning, and woe. And that's another reason why the elect represents those sour grapes, because they were bitter, because we already know what's going to happen, Lord willing, we are the elect, we already know what's going to happen because the Bible prophesies it. And we are here to proclaim the downfall of this wicked kingdom, saying it before it actually happens. So that's why we're bitter. And we have to suffer this place. This is Ezekiel 3 and 1. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, go speak unto the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. He said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. So that's like when you first come into the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. It's in your mouth as honey, sweetness. But as you stay in the truth, longer and longer, you get more bitter and bitter, because you know what awaits you in the kingdom, and you know what you have to face here in your everyday life. So those bitter grapes is talking about, or those sour grapes is talking about the elect, who have the Most High have chosen to eat the roll and go speak unto the children of Israel. Lucky, I found it. This is Revelations 10 and 9. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book. And he said unto me, take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And I took the little book out of the angel's hand, and I ate it up. And it was in my mouth sweet as honey, and as soon as I had eaten it up, my belly was bitter. And that's talking about when you eat up understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the Bible. Once you get it, it's going to make your belly bitter. Because you're going to realize you're in hell, you're going to want to get the fuck out of it. So I'm going to read this again in Isaiah. Isaiah 18 and 5. For before the harvest, when the bud is perfect, and the sour grape is ripening in the flower. Now the word bud means to sprout up. When the sprouting up is perfect, or when the elect finally stand up, and the sour grape is ripening. Because in order for something to ripen, it means that it's ready to be harvested or plucked up. So when the elect finally wake up and they're ready to be harvested or gathered together, the sour grapes, and the flower represents the earth, you know, because that's where the fruit is. The fruit is on the earth. He shall both cut off the sprigs with pruning hooks and take away and cut down the branches. Now those branches and sprigs, those represent the 2/3, and you know, basically everybody fall out the truth in those 2/3. They represent the pruning, the sprigs, and the branches. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that bears fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. And no more can ye except ye abide in me. Now the vine has always been talking about what? The grapevine. And who are those grapes? That's talking about I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered. And men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask. That's basically explaining that. Those 2/3 who do not abide in the Lord Yahawashi and Yahawashi, they basically going to be cast into the fire, you know. And that's what you do when you husband your vineyard. You know, you take the fruit and you get rid of the sprigs and the branches, which is shit you can't use. And this is verse 6. Or actually, let me get this verse. Zechariah 13 and 8. This is Zechariah 13 and 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, said the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people. Those sour grapes are bitter, because they have to be refined, you know, and they have to be tried in order to be perfect. You got to basically partake in the same sufferings as Yahawashi partook in order to make it to the kingdom. So that's bitter. this is Isaiah 18:6. They shall be left together unto the fowls of the mountains, and to the beasts of the earth, and the fowl shall summer upon them, and all the beasts of the earth shall winter upon them. And that's basically what's going to happen when Most High let the destruction loose. It's going to be dead bodies everywhere, you know, and only people going to starve out there, but, you know, the animals not going to starve because they're going to be dead bodies on them, you know. And this is Isaiah 18:6. They shall be left together unto the fowls of the mountains, and to the beasts of the earth, and the fowls shall summer upon them, and all the beasts of the earth shall winter upon them. And all the beasts of the earth shall winter upon them. So the beasts don't have them, they're going to store the dead bodies in the winter of these people. And the fowls, vultures, and all that shit, they're going to have them in the summer. In order to prove that, this is Jeremiah 16:3. For thus said the Lord concerning the sons and the daughters that are born in this place, and concerning their mothers that bare them, and concerning their fathers that begot them in this land. They shall die of grievous deaths. They shall not be lamented, neither shall they be buried. But they shall be as dung upon the face of the earth, and they shall be consumed by the sword and by famine. And their carcasses shall be meat for the fowls of heaven, and for the beasts of the earth. So that's how we know that those sprigs and those branches are talking about the 2/3. You know, the ones that were not chosen to abide in Yahawashi. That the vineyard is the nation of Israel, and that the grapes, you know, are basically the children of Israel, the elect. This is Isaiah 5:1. Now will I sing to my well-beloved, beloved, a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved had a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. The vineyard represents the nation of Israel. The fruitful hill represents Zion, or the land of Jerusalem, the land of Canaan, the land of Israel, the Holy Land. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine. Now when he says he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof, it means he took out those Canaanites. And he allowed us to go there, and he took them out little by little. He said he's going to drive them out little by little. And planted it with the choicest vine. And the vine that he chose is the nation of Israel. And built a tower in the midst of it. And also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes. And it brought forth wild grapes. Most High, you know. Now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, between me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes. So that proves that the grapes represents the children of Israel. And the wild grapes represents the 2/3, you know? Those are wild grapes. Those false prophets. up that word wild grapes in the blue letter, the word there is Strong's H91 is bahasham. It means stinking or worthless. Wild things, wild grapes, stinkberries. So basically, worthless grapes, worthless fruit. Basically, 2/3 are basically worthless fruit. And now, this is Isaiah 4 and verse 5. And now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And that happened when he sent the Syrians against the children of Israel, and also the Babylonians, and also the Edomites. And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will command the clouds that they rain upon it. And those briars and thorns represents those false prophets, the leaders of our people. They represent those briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain. Which that's talking about the view of heaven. But most times you're going to take basically going to take the spiritual nation of Israel. For the vineyard of the Lord of the host is the house of Israel. This is Isaiah 4 and 7. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. Now that proves that the plant is not talking about a marijuana plant. Has nothing to do with smoking weed. Let me read that again. Isaiah 4 and 7. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. So, the reason why Judah is the pleasant plant, because, the Father and Son, Yahawashi, Yahawashi, they come from the tribe of Judah, which today will be so-called Negroes. Isaiah 18 and 4. For the Lord said unto me, I will take my rest, and I will consider in my dwelling place, like a clear heat upon herbs, and like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. For afore the harvest, when the bud is perfect, the sour grape is ripening in the flower, he shall both cut off the spiritual pruning. This is Revelation 7:1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power. He cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of Yahawah in their foreheads, of Yahawah bahasham Yahawashi in their foreheads. Now, this is right before the harvest. And 12,000 from each of the tribes, each of the children of the tribe of Israel will be sealed. From the tribe of Judah all the way down to the tribe of Ezekiel. I'm going to skip down to verse 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Well, that's the harvest. The Most High gathered his elect from the 4 winds of the earth, just like it says in Matthew. Revelations 14:14. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud. On the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle, and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. The harvest of the earth represents the elect. You know, that's the only thing that basically we're waiting on. Lord willing, we part of the elect. Once the elect gets sealed, then the Most High is going to come back and harvest.
I need a prayer. Say a prayer for me too.
And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reap. Another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great wine press of the wrath of the Most High. And the wine press was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the wine press, even unto the horse bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs. Now that also proves that the vineyard is talking about Israel. You know? I'm going to read this again. This is Revelations 14:18. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had a sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. So that proves that those sour grapes are talking about the elect. It's not talking about, you know, anything else. Them shall not we. For her grapes are fully ripe, and the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of the Most High. This is 2nd Esdras 9. And 14. Then answered I and said, I have said before, and now do speak, and will speak it also hereafter, that they be many more of them which perish them than of them which shall be saved. Like as a wave is greater than a drop, and he answered me, saying, like as the field is, so is also the seed, and as the flowers be, such are the colors also. Such as the workman is, such also is the work. And as the husbandman is himself, so is his husbandry also. For it was the time of the world, and now when I prepared the world, which was not yet made, even for them to dwell in it that live now. No man spake against me, for then everyone obeyed. But now the manners of them which are created in this world that is made are corrupted by a perpetual seed, and by a law which is unsearchable with themselves. So I considered the world, and behold, there was peril because of the devices that will come into it. And I saw and spared it greatly, have kept me a grape of the cluster, and a plant of a great people. So read that again. 2nd Esdras 9 and 21. And I saw and spared it greatly, and have kept me a grape of the cluster, and a plant of a great people. And the grape of the cluster represents the elect of the nation of Israel, the plant of the great people. It's talking about the nation of Israel. It's not talking about smoking weed. Let the multitude perish then, which was born in vain, and let my grape be kept and my plant, for with great labor have I made it perfect. Nevertheless, if thou wilt cease yet 7 days more, but thou shalt not fast in them, but go into a field of flowers where no house is builded, and eat only the flowers of the field. Take no flesh, drink no wine, but eat flowers only. Another thing, try to say that Esdras smoked weed because he ate flowers. That's totally going on. That don't make sense at all. You know? There's a reason why it's called cauliflower, because they are edible flowers that you can eat. That's not talking about smoking weed. Esdras was not smoking weed, man. The angel told him to eat flowers, and that's exactly what he did. Oh, and another thing which proves that the nation of Israel are grapes, they have a street gang that call themselves the Great Street Crips. So that proves that the nation of Israel are the grapes. And grapes are what? Purple. Purple represents royalty. The word royal means pertaining to a king. Because in the time of Jacob's trouble, you never know. The Most High might have you in a position to where you might have to, in order to survive, you might have to eat flowers, just like I just ate. You know? And there are edible flowers that you can eat. One of those is, I looked up this article about edible flowers. It's on disastersurvivalsolutions.com, and it gives you a list of all the edible flowers, you know, and just to name a few. One of them is the fresh zucchini flowers. Another one is the borage flower. You know, another one is cauliflower, broccoli. You might not realize it, but those are all flowers. Cabbage. Daylilies. Lavender. Pansies. Pinks. Roses. Squash. Those are all edible flowers that you can eat, you know? And that's what the angel told Edris to do. This is 2nd Esdras 9:24. But go into a field of flowers where no house is builded, and eat only the flowers of the field. Taste no flesh, drink no wine, but eat flowers only. That's not talking about smoking weed. That's the angel telling the Esdras, you know, just go and eat flowers for your meat. The Most High gives it to you for meat. It doesn't have anything to do with smoking. Basically, man, you smoking weed, you're defiling your temple. This is 1 Corinthians 3:16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of the Most High, and that the Spirit of the Most High dwelleth within you? If any man defile the temple of the Most High, him shall the Most High destroy. For the temple of the Most High is holy, which temple ye are. You're not supposed to defile it. No manner. Especially by smoking weed. Else the Most High gonna destroy you. Matthew 10:19. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak. For it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not you that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. So that proves that the Most High is going to dwell in you if you're part of the elect and you're keeping your temple holy, not defiling your temple. Then the Spirit can dwell in you. And also, Ezekiel 25:14. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury. They shall know my vengeance, said the Lord power. The Most High is going to put his anger on his people. That's the spirit of the Most High, his anger, because it says that wrath was not created for man, you know. That's righteous indignation is of the Lord. Isaiah 11:1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of its roots. And that's talking about Yahawashi. You know, he came through the seed of David. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, and the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. And it's talking about Yahawashi when the Most High put his spirit on him. And Yahawashi was totally in the spirit. You know? Some more on the harvest. Joel 2:27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. And it shall come to pass that afterward I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. Now how is that supposed to happen if you're defiling your temple? The Most High just gonna get rid of you. He's just gonna destroy you. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And if you ever watched the movie Apocalypto, they was doing a lot of sacrificing, you know, and they got to a point where they sacrificed so much that the Most High just made it eclipse, you know. He just had the sun blocked out. He did he just did an eclipse. And right after the eclipse, you notice that, you know, the Edomites arrived. The Edomites arrived to the New World after the eclipse. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. You know, and that also proves that the harvest is going to be, you know, Jacob's trouble. How the Most High is going to bring his elect through the fire. You know? And with that, I want to say all power, glory, and honor to Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, Kal Halal Yahawah, Yahawah, bahasham, Yahawashi, shaawaam, chasaad to all our sincere brothers scattered abroad. Shalom.